Welcome to Let's Talk. I want to tell you the story about Squawk. A few years ago, I had a friend. Well, I have a friend, and she was out walking her dog, and she stumbled across a bird's nest that fell out of a tree, and there were three little babies, and only one of them was alive. And so I get a message from her to see if I was around, and that she found these birds. And so I messaged back and I said I'd meet her in the park in a little bit. And I gathered together a cardboard box, gloves, and maybe some paper towels. I think I brought some paper towels. And I met her down at the park. And in the meantime, she took her dog home. And we're looking at the bird in the park. And so I call a local rescue. And I couldn't get a hold of anybody. And we're kind of in the middle of the park. It's this hot, hot summer day. and it's just there's this poor little bird, and he's just laying there, and he's just got his mouth open, and he's like, squawking away. And so after standing and kind of looking at him and looking at the situation, we decide to pack up his nest and put him in the box. And so we take his nest and the bird that is alive to my house, and we wrapped up the birds that died and buried them in the garbage can. And so we took the bird back to my house, and we got home, and we sat it on the kitchen table, and we hummed and hawed about what we were supposed to do. And the bird was just squawking with his mouth wide open, wanting to eat. And I thought, oh, the poor bird, it must be very, very thirsty because it's been baking out in the sun. It was so hot out there. So I called the rescue again. I called a friend of mine that knows animals, and I couldn't get a hold of her right away. We tried Googling, and I didn't find anything that was useful. So I got a little dropper, and I got some water, and I gave it some drops of water in its mouth. That's not what you're supposed to do. A little bird can drown. Birds don't drink water like that. They get all their water from their food source. So don't try to feed your bird water if you ever find a bird. And then I got a hold of the rescue, and they said, oh, can you take a picture of the bird? And so I took a picture with the bird with my cell phone, and I texted it to them right away, and she called me back about 5 minutes later, and she's like, oh, yeah, you found a robin, and we're full with birds, we can't help you. And I said, okay, well, can you at least tell me what I should do? Like, I've got this baby bird in my house. What should I do? And she said, oh, unless I see it, I can't help you. And so I was pretty disappointed. I got off the phone, and my friend that knows animals called me back. And she said, well, when we found Cardinal, although it didn't survive, we gave it cat food, wet cat food. And that's what you're supposed to, one of the things you can feed birds. And so my friend and I hopped in the car, left the bird at my house, and went to the pet store, and we're looking at all the wet cat food. And right away we're realizing we can't feed a chicken. You don't want a cannibal bird. And so I think we found some sort of fish and decided that would be the most appropriate type of food to feed the bird. Got a can of wet cat food and brought it home. And there's the bird. It's still alive, and it's squawking away. And I had some tweezers, and so we took a little piece of the wet cat food and we dropped it in the bird's mouth. We also got worms, but we never cut up the worms because we looked, and it was just too gross and hard to cut up the worms. But we broke up the cat food and started feeding the bird cat food. And so I fed the bird some cat food, and then he looked like he was satisfied, and then he looked like he was dying. And then he let out this great big huge poop, and we thought it was its final death poop, and the bird was dead. But no, it just was its normal poop. So we cleaned up the poop, and 15 minutes later, there's the bird, ready to eat again with his mouth open, hungry, so we gave him some more food. And so for the rest of the evening, it was like every 15 minutes we were feeding this bird, and then he'd have a poop, and then he'd have to clean it up. And apparently, mother or father robins, parent robins, after they feed the baby, because they both come back and feed the baby, they eat the poop after the baby poops to keep the smell of the poop from attracting predators. Interesting fact, but we were not about to eat the baby's poop because it was gross. And so we've got this little robin, and we were Googling, and I came across a video with a man who found a nest of robin. I think they were robins. A nest of birds that fell out of the tree. And he was fairly far away from a rescue group, and he didn't want to be up nursing robins every 15 minutes for a week. And so what he did was he got a hanging basket and put the nest in the basket and hung the basket back up in the tree. And I thought, well, that's a great idea. But by this time it's raining outside, and I was not about to take this poor little baby bird out to hang it up in a tree and let it be in the rain overnight. And so the original rescue that told me there's nothing they could do basically said, I just need to get online and Google rescues and call some other rescues. And so I'm looking for other rescues, and I finally I email a lady, and eventually she gets back to me, and she says that if the robin is still alive in the morning, to give her a call. So we my friend is over, and I've got a roommate, and we're all thinking about this robin and Googling things about robins. And thankfully, they Googled that, or learned that robins just eat till dusk, and then they eat from dawn to dusk. So I could sleep. And so we fed the bird probably till about 12:30. And then I went to bed and got up bright and early and fed the bird right away in the morning. And then my roommate got up and she went in the kitchen, and the bird is squawking for more food from her. And I had to tell her that this bird already ate. I didn't neglect the bird. I've been up bright and early feeding this bird already. This bird was trying to get me in trouble. It was something else. And then I wait till it's probably after 9, and sometime after 9 I called the lady at the other rescue, and I explained the situation, and I told her, like, in retrospect, I saw this video with the man, and he hung the bird back up in the tree, and she said, oh yeah, that's exactly what you want to do. And I said, well, it's been overnight already, and she said, you know what, the mom and dad birds usually are around for 24 to 48 hours looking for their babies. And she said, go hang the bird back up in the tree, and if the parents don't seem to come back by later tonight, give me a call again and get in touch with me, and we'll figure something else out. So my roommate and my friend all pack up the bird in a little, put the nest in the hanging basket, and put the bird in the hanging basket, and we feed it one last time, and we walk out and we see the tree that it's fallen out of, and it's a great big tree, and it fell like from quite a ways up. And so I find a branch that we can reach and hang it up, and the branch is a weak branch. It's just blowing in the wind. I'm like, this is not going to work because the hanging basket is going all over the place. That's not good for the bird. So we ended up putting it right as the tree grows. It kind of splits out, and we put the basket right in the middle. And it wasn't the highest place, and so it was a little concerning for predators, or squirrels, or other animals that might come and get it. But we put it back, and we sat on the hill of the park, and within 10 minutes, the parents were back, and they were back and forth feeding it. And I was relieved, although I don't think they were doing a good enough job feeding it. Like, I don't think they were coming back fast enough. Although they had to go scavenge for food. They didn't just have a can of cat food sitting around, so I'll give them that. And I was relieved that I didn't have to deal with feeding and cleaning up after a baby bird every 15 minutes. And it was really, really fascinating, because then we got to spend the next week, about the next week, every time we'd walk by the tree looking out at the tree, and you could see the bird. Just kind of hopping, looking over the nest, and if you had a camera, you could zoom it in and see it up close. We got lots of pictures, and then the bird just eventually jumped out. My roommate actually got to see
see the bird kind of jump and then hop away, and just kind of hopping in the grass, and then he hopped away, and then we never saw him after that. And it was really nice to see this bird that we had rescued on the ground be reunited with its parents and survive. And this is a really important story because people find birds, especially in the spring and in the early summer. They find robins, and there's a really creative way to be able to get them back out in their natural habitat. And there's a lot of misconceptions that if you touch a bird, if you interfere with it, if you take it home, the parents aren't going to be interested in it. And that's not true with robins, at least. Now, we didn't really handle the bird, but it definitely was around us. And anyway, so our bird, we named him his final name was Squawk. He had some other names, but I forget what we called him. But we called him Squawk. And I will insert some pictures of him. And I hope you enjoyed my story about Squawk. And I hope if you find a bird, you'll be responsible, and you will contact rescues, and you will see whether you can get the nest and put the bird in the nest and put the bird back out in the tree that it fell from, and watch and see if the parents come back and get the bird back into nature. And I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I will see you next time. If you liked it, like and subscribe.